Wasting time. Wasting time.
All right, hello, welcome to Zeitgeist. This is a show that I haven't done in a very, very long time, and certainly not to this degree. We've got 6 people on the show today. We're here to talk about the Ivory Tower, everyone's favorite topic. I thought first piece of content for the year, it should be something a little bit clickbaity that everyone's going to click on and want to hear about. And you know what we're going to do is talk about it. Does it exist? What is it? What can we do about it if it does exist? And I thought, in doing so, we should assemble a crack team of talent that have come from all walks of life. We've got a League of Legends cast at Hysterics. We've got Avrl, who's in the Overwatch League. We've got Mac and Pilski, who are the Ivory Tower, I guess, depending on what your definition of the Ivory Tower is. And Flamboyant, who maybe is someone that's aspiring to get into the Ivory Tower. I don't know. We'll get into that as we talk our way through all of this.
Now,
Now,
you have to physically fight everyone on this podcast to get in.
I think probably everyone would just lose to Mac, so maybe that's a good way to
only
start
Flamboyant, only the people who want to join have to fight. The people already in, we're already in.
Are you suggesting you're in the Ivory Tower, Avril?
How tall are you, Mac?
Jake and I agree that we're actually on the floor above you, Jordan. So of course we're in.
Whatever that is. I called it gold, but maybe it's like, you know, like a diamond tower kind of thing.
Maybe you
I
are.
want to say you got some mad like real distance on this Ivory Tower thing. Like this meme has really gone the distance, I reckon. Like really, you know, I can't even remember how or when it started. I think someone got mad on Twitter, and now here we are. Like I don't know, like has it been like a whole year down the line? But
I think
it's just we've really gone the distance on it.
I think that's probably a good starting point. Maybe.
Gift that keeps on giving.
Mac,
Gift that keeps on giving. I think
this might be where you come in the conversation. Can you tell us where the Ivory Tower began?
Yeah, we all got called out on Twitter by Josh A. And then he disappeared and hasn't done anything since.
I actually suggested that he should come on this pod on this episode, but then Jordan's like, I don't have his contact. So
yeah, but look, we got the next best thing, which is Flamboyant, of course, who is on the come up as a caster, and probably is suffering the same issues that caused the frustration of the blow up that made the Ivory Tower post happen in the first place, right? So. And we also have seen him do a couple of things now. He's worked with us doing some ticker stuff. And you've also been doing a little bit of casting around the Bris Vegas lands. So you've been getting your face out there, which is really
ANZ
good.
Main too, if I remember rightly. I think that was a pretty big one for you.
So B-Stream champs as well.
I would actually like to get your perspective on this first, Flamboyant, because I think it would be a good starting point, right? What do you think the Ivory Tower is? Can you define the Ivory Tower for me?
Fuck.
What's the perception maybe from the people?
Do you think there even is one? That's a better starting question. Do you think there even is one?
So I think that it's not like an Ivory Tower. I think it's more of like an Illuminati type society. You know, with all the top talent. I'm just all the top talent, right? But like, I definitely from an outsider's perspective, you take a look at the talent announcements, and it's always like the same 5 people with someone new mixed in. Like, no offense to you boys are fucking great at what you do, and like, if everyone pretty much fucking looks up to you in the casting circles that I'm in, but like, it always seems to be the same 5 plus some random person added in, just as like a hey, we're still adding people to the Ivory Tower type of thing, and it's like, it can get a little bit frustrating when you take a look at that random person and go, damn, like, I can't believe it. It's just, man, I can't believe it. I'm just so much like. I feel like there's better options than that one.
Random person, like what could have been me, or
like could have been me.
Name drops.
Could have been me.
You're pretty random.
I would never. But it's like the could have been me mentality along the lines of I've never heard of this person mentality as well.
Right.
Yeah, if you know what I mean.
Okay. So I mean, in that respect, if you're looking at coming up and trying to join the Ivory Tower, and I'm not necessarily saying just you, I'm using you as an example, but for people who are trying to, let's say, join the Ivory Tower, where do you live is the first question I would ask, right? And I know this has been a big discussion point, and everyone in Melbourne probably going to hate hearing about this, and everyone in Brisbane. Are you Brisbane based?
I'm Melbourne based.
Melbourne based. Okay, well there you go. Same thing. Same thing in the sense that it's not Sydney. So what's the answer to that, right? Because I understand this from the inside perspective, right? I've worked at ESL. I did 4.5 years at ESL. I'm now a freelancer. I live in Sydney. I know from the perspective of someone like Avrl, who used to live in New Zealand, had to move to Sydney. Mac had to move to Sydney. Pilly and Hysterics, as I understand, were both already in Sydney, and I had to move
Yeah,
from
baby.
Brisbane to Sydney for this job. Why do people have this perception, maybe, that they should be able to do these jobs without being in the location that you require to be in, or you're required to be in to do those jobs?
I feel like because you can just do it remote. I mean, like when you think about it realistically, when everyone here probably started casting, you were sitting there with like a shitty $30 microphone from eBay and like a computer that like could half run a stream. You know, it's like I feel like because people have that still mindset of casting, you know, you need the bare minimum to really get started doing it. And then I don't know why I have to, you know, move my entire life. I don't know why I have to disconnect from friends, from studying if I'm there, working, if I've got a job in a certain area to just move. And it's just like you can understand why, but you can also sit there and pick apart the reasons that people think that it's not as big of a commitment as it really should be.
But it's like any job. Like, you know,
Yeah.
if people complained about not getting in Hollywood and they're not in LA, it's like, well, you got to move to Hollywood. You know, people have been doing that in acting for, I was going to say centuries. Yeah. You know,
Pretty much at this point.
Yeah, sure.
for years, like heaps of years. And, you know, you have to be in the right place at the right time. That's the whole thing with Sydney just so happens to be, which I wish it wasn't. I wish it was somewhere else cooler. Happens to be the esports
We all do.
capital. And then, and you have to be in the place where the work is. It's just,
Yeah.
makes sense.
You're competing against people who are there at the end of the day, and it's like you would have to maybe get the same job remote if that's even available. You'd have to be so much better than the people who are physically there already. And then on top of that, by the way, you talk about the fact that the talents announcements are like 5 of the same dudes than one random person. You're also competing against the 5 same dudes all the time who are also in Sydney. It's like if they're there and they're the 5 dudes who have been doing it and they're good and they've been doing it the whole time, how are you breaking in when you're not even here to compete in person? You know,
I
let
think
alone the people that are in Sydney to compete with.
This is a good one to direct at you, Mac, because I think you had some of these issues when you were trying to start, and you know, obviously you made that move for where were you from, Nowra or something, right? Like down south.
Yeah, like South Coast down in the Shoalhaven.
So you did how many years online broadcast, like ESEA stuff, MDL and stuff like that? Couple years, yeah.
2, I
You
think.
and Manic, I remember, were coming through at sort of the same time.
And Mitch and Conky.
And when you moved to Sydney, was that because Gfinity asked you to move, or because
No, I moved up before that. I moved up because I was supposed to work remember you got me to work on IEM 2018, and I was supposed to do those interviews for Facebook or something.
Facebook
and
Live,
then
yeah.
something changed and there was a disconnect, and a guy from I can't remember his name, a guy from the UK.
Yeah, the fighting games guy. I can't remember.
Yeah, the FGC guy. He got brought over to do it instead. So I came in and you're like, oh, we'll get you to do something, you know, in production, because I already was doing video stuff at that point. So I got put in production and then like met some people, didn't really know what was going on. And that was interesting. But also like I'd moved up just before that because I already had a job in Sydney doing video stuff. And, you know, I knew where ESL was located. So I moved to Lidcombe because it's, you know, only 10 minutes,
Home of
5 minutes
esports.
away.
Let's come home of esports.
That's where everyone else is pretty much
Doxing
living at that
yourself.
point. I don't care, man. I don't care if people know where I live.
The irony
I'm a
is you don't
Chilori
actually
gym.
live in.
All right,
Lidcombe,
drop
so-
the
Let's lift
address.
some weights together. I just don't care. But at the same time, point is, I moved there, and then after doing that or during doing that, I think they were trying to hire Gfinity talent at that point at the same time. So it was like I put myself in the right place at the right time, and then I got to do Gfinity, and I was still bad. Like if we were talking about this the other week, Jordan, you were saying like the first time I casted with you, I was dog shit,
do
and
remember.
I went back and watched it, and I was like, wow. Because you come in with this mentality where I'm like, yo, I'm going to be a play-by-play caster. And all I'm going to do is be a play-by-play caster. That's not the reality of it. You got to learn to do fucking everything. And if you don't learn to do everything, you're not going to get the jobs. So that's a long process as well. And it's harder to refine when you're doing it online. So that goes back to a point before as well from you, Flam, where you're like, we could just do everything remote. The last, all through COVID, has sucked because we don't perform as well online. You can't show your personality if you're not there with the boys, there with whoever you're working with, and just able to flourish, right? I am good around people. I feel like a reason I was good is because I grew up going to the pub all through, like from when I was 18, just going to the pub with my mates, just getting that sort of pub banter down,
Grew up at
learning
the
how
pub.
to talk to people, you know? And I feel like there's a lot of people coming up in the casting scene, and I don't think that they've spent a lot of time outside with friends, and they're just like, yo, I really want to be a caster. but they haven't gone and got any life experience before
True.
wanting to be a caster. And that's the biggest gripe for me. So I'd say just go live your life a little bit while you're trying to be a caster. Anyway, I've done the thing where I've derailed it. What was the original thing I was talking about, Jordan?
I can't even remember.
How you came out? I think it was like
how you
Where'd you
moved.
come from?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Actually, and the reason I wanted to ask you that was because I feel like I remember having a conversation with you about it where you said something along the lines of you didn't feel like you really got an opportunity, even despite moving to Sydney, until Ian started to like take a step back. Was that you or was that someone else?
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah,
I
so-
wasn't gonna get to do CS until there was an opportunity. But being here and constantly annoying you back in 2018 or whenever that was enough. And when Ian was like, can't be bothered to do that one, you were like, hey, you're down the road. You want to do it?
I just want to clarify and point out as well, by the way, that's not going to work anymore because I have no say in what happens. I used to, but I don't anymore. So don't annoy me anymore.
I thought you were the CEO of the Ivory Tower.
No, it's a misconception. There's a dark-hooded figure behind the scenes that no one knows.
Oh, the man who like you guys seen the Loki TV
that runs
series,
the
the castle at the end of time.
Yeah.
There actually is like this Illuminati guy behind this. I won't leak it. We all know who he is, but like he's never been on these shows. You won't see him on a broadcast. You won't see his face, but there really is a CEO of the Ivory Tower.
Yeah.
If you know, you know.
Well, what was your reason for moving to Sydney, Avrl? Because I kind of felt like you.
I thought I was going to get more work in Australia.
Yeah, you sort of had already made it, I thought, and then you decided you want to make the move to Sydney anyway.
So here's my pathway. We talked about like you know like what are your chances of getting on a broadcast if it's all. Let's talk about Australia, New Zealand, Oceania in general. How are you supposed to get on like the studio broadcasts, et cetera, et cetera? And I was saying earlier, like, well, you'd have to be so much better than, or when I say better, I don't mean like a better cast. I mean better holistically in terms of everything from your brand personality, your casting ability, all sorts, your entire package, your X Factor, whatever. You have to be that much more valuable than the next guy to be flown in because you're just that much better. And so I think I did my first ESL broadcast with you, Jordan. Actually, it was 2018. It was a super week for Watch Contenders Australia early on for season 1. And I got flown in for that.
Was that you and Pixie?
It was, yeah. Usually we got flown together for that, and then we got flown in for season 1 finals as well, flown over MEO. So, and the reason, we kind of had that opportunity. I mean, you had some say at the time because you were kind of head of talent at ESL as well. Was the fact that you valued that we were at the top of our game for that particular game, and we were I guess the people you wanted to bring in to supplement the broadcast, and so there's that. But I don't think most people could get that. I think there's very few people that would get flown. Like you got like Xenox coming in for PUBG at some point, right? It's very specific. We're talking about people that are like really at the top of the game.
I think
in this region.
Also,
you go.
I just need to say, and also if you do have that brand power already, you're probably going to cost too much for a lot of the products that Australia has.
It depends.
Like if you are, it depends on the product, of course. But if it's something that's smaller and you think you're going to get on it because of brand power, then they give you the rate that you're going to get, and you're not happy with it, then they probably won't fly you.
So the point is like, then that's the other thing. You might either be too big to get flown in for the size of the broadcast, or you're too small and there's a better guy, there's another guy. Anyway, where we're at. So why did I come to Australia, etc.? Because thinking back on it, technically speaking, I probably didn't need to come to Australia. That was a personal choice for me because I wanted to be a little bit closer to ESL, a little bit closer to the oceanic scene for domestic work, and that would even include work and live events post COVID, which maybe this year 2023 I'd love to be on DreamHack or something. We'll see what happens, but I joke about like I thought I'd get more work. I've gotten reasonable amounts of work. I haven't gotten like a low amount of work. My priority has been on doing international stuff, obviously, and I could have probably have done that from home in New Zealand. I think COVID actually helped me out in a lot of ways, and maybe that's a future discussion point, but like COVID did even out the playing field in terms of you talk about Flam. What about just doing broadcasts at home? Well, COVID, you had to, and that gave a lot of people opportunities. That gave people like me even opportunity I was already at a pretty reasonable level in my game, in my field. Then that opened up some doors for me to get international work that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to do. That was across both Valorant and Overwatch, which I'm still doing. So, and I still decided it'd probably be better for me to be here than be in Auckland, New Zealand for future work prospects. I'm not even talking about like, well, what does 2021, 2022, 2023 look like? I'm talking like 5 years from now, even like 10 years from now. Like, what does the general esports landscape look like? It'll be better in Australia, in Sydney, in Melbourne, wherever, than it would be in New Zealand. So for me, it was like, well, there's no reason for me to be in New Zealand no matter what I'm doing.
Yeah, I know that there's been a couple of cases, and I'll use Cthulhu as an example, right? He's living in New Zealand. He has a Russian passport, and they wanted him for an event in Melbourne, and he just couldn't go because he couldn't get a visa to come. And so he was kind of up the shit creek. And I think, obviously, if he's living in Sydney or living in Melbourne, then maybe that makes life easier. And in reality, how many events are there in New Zealand? Like one? Is there Armageddon Expo or something like that? And that's like
That's not even an event. There's
Yeah.
that's like Supernova. What esports is there? There's no
Yeah.
esports.
So what is the point of being in New Zealand would be the discussion there, I guess. But anyway, that's beyond the scope of this, I think. But one thing that I wanted to touch on that you sort of brought up there was, like, for example, yourself and Pixie getting flown over from New Zealand, and Xenox as well as an example for PUBG. And I think in those two cases, in those instances, you and Xenox and Pixie were only flown in for those events because you had kind of carved out this niche for yourselves that you were like the Overwatch guys. Like you and Pixie, in my eyes, were the Overwatch guys in this region, even beyond myself and Ben and whoever else was doing it on Contenders Australia. Like it was clear that Avril and Pixie were the guys. And with PUBG, it was always clear that Xenox was the guy. He was the one that had put in all that work. And so when PUBG opened up in an ESL, in an ANZ Champs capacity, the first person you look to is Xenox. And it's like, okay, well, he's in Melbourne. Can we do this show without him? And the answer was no, we can't really do this show without him. So I think if you want that to be you need to be extremely lucky in the game that you're playing or the game that you're interested in is a game that's going to get broadcasted and is going to have dev support such that people are going to be flown in for it. And B, you have to be the one person. Like if you're going to be flown in, you have to be the best. You have to be the only choice, and you have to be able to more or less say, this broadcast cannot occur without me. And I think there's a couple of examples of that as well more recently with LCO, Mac. Like I think Rusty and Skimmy, I don't know that you can do that broadcast really without those two.
It feel weird.
So, Rusty's obviously had to move from wherever he lives, somewhere near the Queensland border, I think it is. And he's living in Sydney, but, he's had some discussions with ESL back and forth about that.
He just moved back up to...
But they really want him. They really want him on that show because you kind of can't... There isn't really anyone to replace him. So, here's one that I want to sort of send your way, Hysterics, because I know you had a lot of issues when you first started casting, right? You were... From the outset, right, you were very much always a League of Legends guy, and you did all that. You did the OCSs, you did all those pleb broadcasts, but you never got the shot, right? You never got the shot with OPL. And eventually you had to make that, I don't know, was it a decision? Like, I'm not going to get OPL, I'm going to have to do something else, and then you ended up at the LPL. What was that? What was that like? Because I remember saying to you, like, dude, I would just give up on League of Legends at this point. I'd find something else to do.
You did, you little pansy. No, I literally, I think it was like 2017 where I'm like, oh, dude, surely this year, like, I get something in OPL. And then 2018, I was in danger of, this never went on record, but I was actually told that I wasn't getting OCS. And I was like, surely. I'm like, I've done it for years. Like, and I was working with Preacher at the time and Mendrix, and both of them got cut out. And because they wanted to use new talent. Because apparently there was an inside consensus from Riot that I'd peaked, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
So I peaked, and like they wanted to use new talent instead of just continuously using me. And I was like, in 2018, I'm like, God, I had to scrape to get OCS. Then I got OPL promotion tournament. And then I thought, okay, surely there's a pathway into OPL. But I was even told at the end of 2018 that they weren't considering any talent, or they didn't want to use me. So yeah, continuously being gated, I was like a little bit down on it, but I knew, I think, either the end of 2017 or top of 2018, as Preacher started working as a guest on LPL, I was like, okay, LPL keeps hiring talent. They have a bit of a rotation. Like, that seems like a possibility. Like, I need to apply for internationals because whatever's going on here, there's this huge barrier that I couldn't go above and beyond. And like we talked about it before, I was in Sydney. Piermont is where Riot Games, OCE, is now gone. That was based there, and I was so close. Like I was literally half an hour away, and I was like, "Oh, I'm available. I'm nearby." I was talking to the writers during, the Challenger series when I was first there. Like I had contacts within and all this kind of stuff, and no one would just tell me, and I would, I was never bothering. Like I try to be polite and humble and like learn. And no one really gave me any information nor told me if there were any possibilities. And I had to find out when I didn't get it that I would not be doing the product. So this is like interesting with the conversation of Ivory Tower, where I feel like I was held back with no way to improve or no real correspondence. And the way I got over the top of that was like, I looked elsewhere. I went into an international broadcast because I had to go and do that because I couldn't get OPL because, you know, it was like, what do I do? You know, what do I do when the broadcast I want to do and work really hard towards, which I felt like I earned at that point, you know, wasn't given to me. Well, okay, I started working other stuff with ESL. I started doing World of Tanks, which was just boring, to be honest.
I love what it takes, all right? Don't
I don't know
don't
what
chat
you're
shit
talking
about what
about,
it takes.
Jake. I've never found that boring at
Oh.
all. It's amazing.
Dude.
Look, I need to ask, did you ever try, because you were talking to the rioters, or at least trying to talk to the rioters, did you talk to like Atlas and Spawn and everyone else that was
Yes.
working at that point? And did you get that, like, did you annoy them enough to be like, yo, get me on the broadcast?
Everyone.
Like, what do I have to do? You did it
Everyone,
with
and everyone, man, like producers, like talking to directors, right?
Yeah.
Like, and if any Riot OC people are, you know, watching this, like, you know, I talk to them. I definitely talk to them, and you know, I try to be friendly and go above and beyond, and you know, try to get on the show. Like, and yeah, like what could like casters can help out. They can maybe put in a good word, but what can they do? You know, how can they see it through to the end of the day? As Elfish was saying before, he's no longer on at ESL. For someone to get on through without maybe even a caster is even harder. So yeah, I mean, I literally bothered everyone, talked to everyone, tried to get on. Like, oh, is there any spots in OPL? Guest spot? Like, dude, at one point I offered to work for nothing. I was like that desperate. I'm like, I'll work for nothing. Like,
Yeah.
I literally, you know, I'll do it for exposure
You
just
did
to
the
get
thing.
into the place. Yeah, and even that wasn't enough. And then, you know, end of 2018, I got onto LPL. Luckily enough, after doing a full year.
I don't know what we're
2018.
talking about, but I got a special guest here, so I'm gonna have to interject real quick. Whatever topic we're talking about, this
just
person's now going to talk about this
Fucking
topic.
come in, bro.
Gordon, you might want to inform them a little bit about what the topic is.
Is it Jess?
But
Is it Pico?
Is it yummy
Pico?
cheese, man?
is
Oh,
it yummy?
yummy? It might be yummy.
I bet you it's yummy.
Oh, it's Mandy.
Oh,
Mandy, what are you doing
Mandy,
in
is that my
Avril's room?
house?
I feel like she needs
man,
headphones.
Put the headset on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll smack.
Came back from Sweden, Jönköping, R6 Major. I say just
Mandy.
came back.
Hey,
over
hey
like a
Mandy,
month.
welcome to my
Hey.
house. How you doing?
Hey, yeah, doing great. This is not going to fit on my head.
She's basically
I'm
saying
just
you've got a
gonna
fat
hold
head,
this
Avril.
here.
Wow.
Oh my god.
He didn't hear that. He'll hear it on the recording.
Thank God he can't
Hey,
hear it.
hey, okay, so Mandy, I've got one question for you.
yeah.
do
one
you
question
think
for
the
me.
Ivory Tower exists?
Does the Ivory Tower exist? I don't know. Is it just a figment of our imagination? It might be.
Maybe.
Look relevant.
Okay.
Sounds like
Oh.
we're being gaslit.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. So, well, it's good to see you. What are you doing in
Yeah,
Avril's
why
room?
are you here?
Why am I here? I'm here to pick up some gear from Avril.
Is that what
Oh.
he
She heard we're talking about Ivory Tower, and the
Right.
spider sensor started thinking.
Yeah,
She
alright.
came down to give her thoughts.
All right.
We have
well,
so much beer. Do you want a case? Like, we have so much left over from
Oh
the
my
weekend.
gosh, really?
Yeah.
This
that
is
would be
really
great.
derailed. I've never had a show that's
Yeah.
derailed this much. Suppose that's what
I'm
happens when
sorry,
you have
my
6
presence
people.
has brought the derail. I apologize.
Yeah.
No worries.
That's
So
all
we're
right.
like 20 minutes in.
Yeah. 23 minutes in. All right. Well, you know, you can stay or you can do whatever you need to do. I don't mind.
I
You
can give
you
you
stay
back
on the
to
show.
Avril.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do what-
no, fuck
do what you need
Avril.
to
This
do.
is so much better.
I will in a second. I will in a sec.
All right. Well, we'll continue without Avril.
Bye.
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 I don't even know where we were at there, Hysterics.
Oh,
but
something about complaining, dude.
basically, you were just saying,
you said you would. You
I'm
said you would
better.
work for free, but you didn't go as far as to say you'll pay them to be on the broadcast.
Oh, true. That was my mistake.
Okay.
No, I was saying 2018, dude. 2018 was like working every game because I had no other option, so I had to divert.
that's me,
And so
bro.
the TLDR
That's
is
my
like,
entire career.
if you can't get one spot, if you can't get one place, or you can't get one gig, it's like, well, find something else if you want to work in the space, or you have to change jobs. And so that's what I did, man.
Okay,
That's-
well, here's one thing that you've sort of reminded me of. I have, in my time when I was at ESL, and even beyond that, right, I've had conversations with people, and they've said, I would do this show. I would pay to go and do this show. Like, I would pay my own way. I would fly myself. I would accommodate myself and whatever.
never do it.
No, and it's not even that. That has occurred in the past. Danog is a great example of it. He, I think, is from Melbourne, and he flew up. He flew himself up to Sydney on multiple occasions to do the ANZ Champs Dota stuff, and you know, he sort of went places with that, so that worked out for him. But I never felt good about that. Like, I never felt good about that situation as someone that was quote unquote managing talent in the loosest of terms when I was at ESL, because that to me always felt like it was taking advantage of someone a little bit, right? If the only reason you're going to get on this broadcast is going to be because you're going to fly yourself, accommodate yourself, you're going to pay, you know, $500 to be here every week. Like, in the long, like, that might work once, you know, I think that works once, but long term, I never really want to see that be a mainstay. I don't think that our industry or our job really can exist if that's what you're going to have to do to get yourself on a broadcast. So I never really liked that. I mean, and you've just reminded me of it because you said you know, do it for free. I never really think that's a good, like, I don't think that's a good way of going about it, because yes, that might get you the foot in the door, but inevitably that's going to kind of screw you later on down the track. So,
and screw the industry.
I'm not a big fan of that.
Talent.
Yeah.
Expectations, etc.
No.
All right, well, Pilski, you've been pretty quiet. What's your take? Does the Ivory Tower exist?
I don't know. Like any other conspiracy theories, there's just a bunch of very logical things that are explanations as to why people think like that. Basically, you know, it's just you know, I mean, they say it like in any industry, there's like a hidden job market, and it's the same thing with casting. You know, like it's about who you know, it's about social connections. That's part of it, and that's the explanation for it. And then obviously there's other things, other factors that explain it, like it costs money to fly people to X and Y place, and that comes out of the budget, and it costs money for accommodation. And if there's someone that's already there that can do it, then it's just easier to get them. And there's also like the thing that people don't think about is like the reliability factor and the convenience factor for someone who's like a project manager or someone who's organizing something. You're not going to take a risk if you don't have to. Like, you're just going to go with who you know, and like you're just going to go with what works, kind of thing. And I think that's been the case with a lot of the kind of shows that we work.
Yeah, I know in a lot of cases, you know, yourself and myself, I feel in particular, have been put on just random broadcasts. You have done well. I mean, you're really into StarCraft, right? But you know, you got put on that StarCraft broadcast. You did what was it, Warcraft 3, even though you didn't really have a huge amount of experience there. But then again, like, no one really did. You're doing Magic.
Yeah.
Again, where are you finding Magic casters? Maybe these are the kinds of things where new people need to be coming through, but they're not finding those opportunities because it is easier for someone to
don't know. The people who are in charge of it's just a benefit of mine of already being there. There's obviously better people who have more knowledge. Maybe they would be as good on the broadcast. You know, that's up to your personal opinion, but you know, they're just not aware of these people a lot of the time, and that's why they don't get picked.
If you wanted to get involved, again, I use Hollywood as such a good example, like acting, where you don't just go in and become an actor. Like, there's people that will work and hand coffee to people because they want to be around, right? They not only want to learn, but they also just want to be there, like as a name. So they hand coffee around for a year or something while working on their acting in the background, right? A thankless job that eventually will develop to, oh, hey, can you step in or something? Oh, I'm in the right place at the right time. Yeah, an unlikely scenario, but still being at the right place at the right time is such a big advantage where
What are we talking about,
kind of work
fellas?
your way up. We're talking about being flexible, you piece of shit. Oh, sorry. For later on.
I think the things that I wanted to talk about most of all, like in regards to this, is like, I feel like for me, the thing that worked for me was just being, it's the same thing as like, you know, selling a product. Is just like differentiating myself. Like, that's the only reason I got a job. Everyone else was play-by-play casters, and I was the only one who had like reasonable playing experience, and you know, was able to like just do color commentary and stuff like that. Even though I was horrible, I was terrible on broadcasts. I improved over time, like over a long time, and got better at that. So that was good for me. And the other thing that I wanted to say is like, this same shit that people are talking about is happening to all of us that have jobs. It's happening to Jake. You know, Jake wants to do fucking Worlds or something like that. I'm sure Jordan would have wanted to do like Overwatch League or like League of Legends or some shit like that. You know, Mac would have wanted to go overseas and do an IEM or something, but you know, we're not getting picked either.
Are we talking about the Ivory Tower after the Ivory Tower?
There's towers above
Yeah,
the towers.
there's-
We're
is
looking
that a
down,
topic?
and then there's like other people
Okay.
looking down on us.
Well,
And
let
then
me
there's other people
weigh
looking
in
down
when,
on
when
that.
we're ready.
Yeah,
well,
you go.
well,
You go.
this is something that I actually did want to bring up. Was that is it a symptom of a greater problem in ANZ? Right? Does the Ivory Tower only exist because there's nowhere for the top casters in ANZ to
Yeah.
go? Like
And
for
there's not enough
myself,
money.
I'm ready. Like I'm 100% ready. I know Mac is. I'm applying to jobs to go somewhere else, and I'm trying to get those jobs. But you know, if Ian didn't go and become a multi-billionaire at a big four company or something, Mac wouldn't have got a job. And it's
true.
like
Thanks, Ian.
It's like you don't really. It's hard to get a job unless there's a spot for you, and if there's no path of progression for the people that are already there, then it's going to take a while.
There's a few layers here, so I'm gonna spend a second to break this down, because I get the plight of everyone coming up, but also at the same time, to be very straightforward about it, there's not a lot that can be done, because this isn't a normal job. This is a talent job with very limited positions on very limited broadcasts. How many top tier broadcasts are there in the world? How many tier 1 broadcasts are there in the world? And you break it down even further. How many like top broadcasts in the region are there? You want to do top CS here, you have ANZ champs, right? You want to do Overwatch here, there's only one broadcast, Contenders. And you have to go up against motherfuckers like me on there, by the way, because I'm still on that broadcast. I don't have to be. And I might,
who? Sorry.
if you like to come on, I can vacate for you. But
you're
the problem
gatekeeping,
is,
basically, is what you're saying.
but that's the problem. And here's the other thing is, like, when let's say, Mac and Pilly want to go for international events and this and that, we are all competing against each other as well, because I might be going for that. Jordan might be going for that. This guy, that guy. There might only be
We
like
are
one
competing
spot.
for a job right now.
And
Me,
that's-
you, and Mac are all competing for the same job right now.
And trust me, a lot more people than that.
Like probably hundreds of people.
And that's the point. It's like there's no. So on one hand, it's like, yeah, I have a little bit of empathy there, but I don't think I have the sympathy, because factually speaking, there just isn't that many positions. If you look at sports broadcasts, you got guys, and I'm envious of them almost, who you can work in that job for like 30, 40 years, and you literally don't vacate that job, that position for casting, for broadcasting, sportscasting on that specific network for that sport. No one can penetrate that until that guy either dies or retires, like literally retires at 65 or something like that.
Or you get invited there because you're like, I'm like thinking NFL straight away. They're bringing on, ex-players that have decent brands. And they're just bringing players. Same as the cricket right here in Australia.
In esports, they bring in players. I've lost positions to players all the time. Pilly's a player. I'm sure someone lost a position because Pilly came on as an ex-player. All that kind of stuff. So that's the difficulty of color casting specifically. But like, the competition is extremely fierce. And you're at a position now where, like, for most casters, and now we're in 2023, it's like you're coming into the wave. It's like you're trying to buy Bitcoin now when it's like boom, shot up there, when the rest of us came in way lower. Like the options are getting more slim because there's only more and more people trying to come in. Because here's the other thing people want to talk about as well is, back in the day there was a shortage of casters. People were like scrambling, like, do you want to cast? That's how I got on. I was just some guy.
They were piss cheap. They were fucking cheap back then as well.
Cheap? I didn't get paid at all. I didn't get paid at all. You talk about cheap, was completely free. I was lucky if I got a beer.
I didn't get paid for 2 years. I
started in 2011, didn't get paid till 2016. Anyway, the point is like there was a short, because it was so new and there was like no demand for it. The reason why there's no demand for it is because there was no real reward. You just did it because it was fun, because you felt like doing it. It was just a thing you wanted to do. Whereas I feel like, I'm not saying you are going to be this person, Flame. I'm sure there might be people that are not like this out there, but from my feeling of when I've seen other casters, especially the new ones, they're there because they got inspired and they saw how like big followings and they're making money, and like they're like semi-internet famous, whatever, and it's like all glitzy and it isn't behind the scenes, but it's, what I mean, like there's this facade, and it's very attractive facade that people want to buy into, like, wow, that looks so cool, I want to be paid for talking about games. Who wouldn't want to do that? And now people want to come in because they're looking for that Hollywood thing. And again, the fun fact is, behind the scenes, there's a lot of BS you have to deal with, even no matter what level you're at. More money, more problems. But yeah, so like there's just so many people competing with now, whereas there just wasn't that many people competing against you back in the day. So the standards required to get anywhere now are just so unbelievably high, and then you have the bottleneck to get to the top in your local region, and then how do you go beyond there to like international? I don't know that I would have gotten my Overwatch League position had Wolf, the LCK caster, not moved to the LCK. That opened that position up for me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you got to wait for someone else to leave before a position opens up. Because if you want to replace someone that's already there, you talk about the 5 people and the 1 random, you want to replace one of the 5 people, you got to be better than one of the 5 people there, or they got to go.
And that's I need to come in quick and just say the problem is as well, a lot of people are coming in who have come out of nowhere, you know, like talking about some of the posts that went out. I think the last one with Valorant coming through and people commenting on ESL. And all the people come out of the blue. I'm like, I've never fucking heard of this person. Like what they've been casting in a bedroom for a year or something. And they're like, they think they have the place to sit there and talk and be like, oh, who's this person on the broadcast? Like I should be there. It's like, dude, fucking reach out. Like all these OCE people that have complained and bitched and moaned over the years, I haven't fucking heard of any of them. And it gets me so pissed off when they complain and they sit there and they think they have the audacity to question why certain people like you guys are getting gigs because you've earned it, because yes, you've been in the right place at the right time, but the effort and work you put in, the unpaid work especially, has been huge, and reaching out for feedback and criticism and all that kind of crap has been massive too. There are so many times I've put out publicly for OCE league casters or even global league casters or even casters in general, reach out and I can give you feedback as a general nature as to how you are, especially as a play-by-play, right? And the amount of people that take that up and actually do that and actually reach out to me is 1%, if even that. And those are the people that like want to grind and actually make it into a career rather than what I'll call opposers who complain about things like the Ivory Tower because they're on the outside and being like, as Avrl's saying, it's fucking glamorous. Oh, it's so cool. It's like, oh yeah, I should be there with Hugh Jackman. You know, it's not the kind of level like we're not that fucking great, right? No, I'm not saying myself, but it's like you're talking about casters, right? Like if someone came out in LPL and be like, oh, you know, they should put me on the broadcast alongside Hysterics. It's like, dude, that's like saying, you know, someone who's in a fucking short film that was watched by people in Wollongong, you know, they should be up there with a person with Hugh Jackman who played, you know, bloody what's his face, you know,
Wolverine.
Holy crap! Sorry, like they should be up there with Wolverine. It's like you're looking at a comparison here where you've just come out of the blue. You've done some bedroom casting with some shit tournaments for a year. You haven't reached out to people. You haven't started building connections in the industry, nor working on your talent to a level where it's by their standards by reaching out to those people. And you have the audacity to say that you should be there, or at least like you should be considered, or you can complain about other talents. Like they're there for a reason. You're not. I think you need to fucking suck it up.
At the same time, though, like when I started, that was like my mentality, where I was like, I just come from being a player, and I was watching like
Pilski
the
was the
broadcast
one
of
random
the
with the 5
tournaments,
dudes.
and I was like,
Pilski was
listening to the cast, and after like playing actively and like playing for orgs and shit, and I was like, these guys have no idea what's going on in the game. I could cast that better. Like I actually know how to like cast that or like break that down. And I was fucking awful when I started, obviously, but like that's what I thought as well. So I can kind of relate to that mentality, but you usually are a bit like delusional and biased about yourself.
Okay, well, I want to get Flam back into this here because you know you've been nodding along, you've been sitting there listening to all this, and I let me make an assumption, right? My assumption is, and based on what Hysterics said, where people come to him and want to try and grind, and he gives them opportunities to get feedback and whatever. I think if I'm in the position of someone who's not quote unquote in the Ivory Tower, I look at all the work that I'm doing. I'm going to all these local lands, I'm casting remote, I'm doing ESEA, blah blah blah, whatever. Doesn't matter what game it is. I'm doing all this work, and it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what I do, how good I get, I'm not going to get that opportunity anyway. That's the perception I think I would have if I was a tier 2 caster right now. Is that a correct assumption, or is that what it's like?
So I'm very different to a lot of other tier 2 casters. I'm hyper competitive against myself and myself only. And so if I realize that I'm not getting those opportunities, then I just know, hey, it's just because I'm not good enough yet. I got to keep working.
You're the fucking 1%.
I've done that. I've done that with literally everything I've done in my life. Whenever I've played cricket, whenever I played chess, whenever I played American football, I've literally said, if I'm not getting the opportunities to get up to that next level, I'm not fucking good enough yet. Which means I've just got to keep working.
This is the best mentality out of a tier 2 caster. Even
that being said,
caster.
That being said, the healthy way to approach that is also like, I'm just going to jump in really quickly, is like, you want to have accountability, but also understand sometimes it is out of your hands. So you got to, If you find
Yeah.
that, then you're exactly where you want to be.
That's one thing I
Yeah.
wanted to say, like before you, like I'll jump in as well, is that I actually do think that there are definitely casters that are better than the people on existing broadcasts, and they won't get the opportunity. I do think that exists for
There
sure.
is a small scenario. I agree with that too.
Yeah.
But in most cases,
Like you were even talking about it with the like the LPL and stuff, Jake. Like when we were having a chat and stuff. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, go on, Flame. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, all I was gonna say is that, like, in the end of the day, casting as a T2 guy in OCE is like, are you mentally resilient enough to continue to take knockbacks?
Yep.
Like, in the end of the day, it's like, are you able to just deal with failure and just get on with it? Like, yeah, it's may not be good for your mental health, but as long as you can keep a smile on your face, like, no one really cares, right? Because that's the glam, that's the portrayal of the actual industry as a talent, and you're just sitting there. And half the time, I think you'll have that hysterics thing of like, why the fuck are these people complaining? Like, you literally have done nothing. Why are you questioning the people who are in charge of the talent?
I think
have
it's
no
kind of
right.
like it's kind of devastating for you as like a person sometimes, like to have that like knockback or whatever. But the reality, I mean, I'm sure Jordan can attest to this, is like the reality of the person that's doing the hiring is they're looking at the person and they're like, often they're like, I think this thing about this person is good, or this person it could be good at this, but they just need to do X or Y, or I'm waiting to see X or Y first, kind of thing. What do you think, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, I think in my position, in a lot of cases, when the thing is, it's different now. Okay, so when I was having an influence on hiring, like for example, Pilski, right? If you remember, I put out I think it was like a Google form or something like that. Like, hey, everyone, put in your details here. I'm looking for casters.
I didn't even fill out the form. I just DM'd you.
Whatever the
I
case.
didn't even do the bare minimum.
The thing is, there was barely anyone of any note that would be able to apply for that, right? Anyone that actually even took that step at that time was like already doing better than 90% of people. Nowadays, you're going to have 100 people applying, 200 people applying, whatever, for any of these positions. So it's very different. But I think for me, one of the biggest things was initially I would look at it and I would try to figure out, are you able to appear competent, okay? Because that was the first thing. If you're not even appearing competent, if I go on your Twitter and you are just, posting random shit, retweeting giveaways, blah, 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 that kind of thing, it's like, sorry, you just don't get it. Do you know what I mean? So the first thing is to just make sure that you're competent. The second thing was to be a decent human being. And those were like really the only two barriers to entry at the time. So I don't know that I can really speak to it at this stage anymore. I think at this point now you need to have a repertoire of, ability. You have to have a show reel, or you have to have some broadcasts that you can show people. I used to ask people when they applied or when they wanted to do something, I said, can you just record a VOD and send it to me? Like, it doesn't matter what it is. It didn't matter how dog shit you were. You could have been Pilski on his first broadcast. That's how bad you could have been, and you could have gotten a job. Okay? As long as you recorded that VOD, there was a pretty good chance you were going to get on the broadcast at that time, because there was just no one going for it. And all I wanted to see from that was that you were willing to put in the barest, most minimal, tiny ass piece of effort. It took you 30 minutes to record a VOD. And then I would give you the opportunity.
Oh, it's changed. It's what? It's changed that much in 6 years, you reckon?
I think so. Because like, if, let's say, for example, okay, let's say Macmate or Pilski next year is no longer working the ANZ champs, right? They're going and doing something internationally. Who are we going to get? Who's the next caster that comes and casts in the Ivory Tower? Okay.
Karath.
You've got Conky and Komodo, who potentially are on there. You've got Flamboyant, obviously, and all the guys from Bris Vegas. You've got no shortage of people applying. Okay, and all of those people have been doing the tier 2 circuit, or even in some cases, let's say for Conky and Komodo, they've been doing tier 1 shows. So if you want to get that job, and you want to, apply for it, it's no longer, I'm just going to record a VOD and I'm just going to show you that I can actually put the effort in. You're actually going to have to show that you've been putting in the effort for the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, maybe, to even get a look in. So it is much more competitive than it used to be.
It's a reinforcing thing. That's a big issue as well, is that like that's one of the main ways that I like negotiate getting jobs, or that I like compare myself to other people, is I like have a whole resume built up. And it just keeps reinforcing itself. It's like if you just have more of a resume, maybe you get the next job, and then the other guy doesn't get the next job, and it's pretty tough to beat that.
I want to take
You're
it.
competing against everybody at the moment. Like you know, and on some level, once you go even higher, you're competing against the whole world.
Yeah.
You're
It's
competing
gonna
against
continue.
thousands and thousands and thousands of people around the world.
It's going to continue to get worse. Like it's only going to get worse and worse because there's always going to be more and more people looking for the job. It's going to get more and more popular, and those positions are going to be, prestigious for people of all levels, right? Like I'm doing talent development this year and talent lead for the LPL, and like we've got. When are you releasing this? When is this coming out? What date?
Probably tomorrow.
Okay, I'm not saying anything more.
Okay, no leaks, no leaks, no leaks.
We've got 4 new talent members coming into the team. Sorry, 3 actually, because we're losing a couple as well. And so the way I went through that is like I have a database of people in OC, which I try and promote. We actually do have an OC caster coming on that you guys know. To clarify before as well, it wasn't LPL I was talking about, Pilski. It was another broadcast from from way before, but. Our talent on our show, deserves to be there. They've had a thorough look through as well. And it's like, well, that database where we've included talent, it's like they've worked on the broadcast before, one of them, and he's really worked his way up and he's continued to get better and better. And it's like, yeah, he was, kind of in the right place, but also like he just kind of went through the weeds for a little bit as well, just to kind of reiterate on the conversation we're having before. But yeah, I think it's always going to be more prestigious, and just being involved where you can is such a good way to start.
Okay, well then for you, Flam, do you think that things like ANZ Main and Bris Vegas and stuff like that, are they actually helping, right? Is that something that you think, okay, if I do this, if I do ANZ Main, maybe there's a chance I'm doing ANZ Champs at some point in the future?
The only reason that I started doing Bris Vegas and ANZ Main was to have a decent sleep schedule. Because I've been working mainly, especially in the tier 3, tier 4 European Counter-Strike for almost a year and a half now, working as like a main commentator for a TO over there. I've been grinding that away. I literally turned around and I went, damn, I need to do a LAN. I can't, say I'm like officially casting if I haven't done a LAN yet. So I literally DM'd Mav, I think it was at 3 or 4 a.m. one night, and I just went, Mav, I need to get on a Bris Vegas cast. I will get myself there. Is there a spot for me? And they're like, yep, we'll put you on, we'll put you on. And so I sat there, I casted there. If you look back at the first Bris Vegas I did, I was absolutely shocking. I was horrible. It's probably some of the worst, because that was the first time I actually had exposure to duo casting and actually, being in an environment with other people where, you had to bounce off other people and all that. It was a good learning experience to come through for Bris Vegas, and especially for young casters coming through. Having those opportunities to be in a LAN environment without being in a LAN environment, if you kind of get what I mean, is really invaluable experience to come through. And, doing ANZ Main was just so I can have a decent sleep schedule. I just continue to build the resume, as Pilly said, so I can sit there and I can, knock down the next caster who tries to come up against me, I guess is sort of the best way to put it.
Yeah, and online casting and LAN casting and event casting and studio is completely different. It's completely different. Like I despise doing online casting. I actually hate it.
God, I've been doing it for 3 years. It sucks.
Yeah, and even the people like Jake who do it regularly, like, it's just not something you can get pumped up about.
Can I add in? I don't think you can be like really, really good at casting if you're only doing online and you never do any sort of studio in person. What put me from like, I don't know, being like pretty bad to like actually not bad was doing a lot of studio work. And like that's easier said than done, because there's not just a bunch of studio work out there that's it's just available. They're sought after, and there's very few of them. And typically, especially we're talking about in Australia, it's like, well, you want to do regular studio work, you better be in Sydney working for ESL, and you're already on a top broadcast. So, in terms of pathway, I don't know that it's like a very useful conversation, but I think it's something I'm going to say anyway, in terms of the fact that it's just a different level, because you're also working with production teams, you're working on a set in a broadcast environment. All of that is a learning curve. Once you start working with production, you're learning how an actual production works behind the scenes, what they want out of you, what you need to be delivering for a broadcast, and it all adds to your repertoire as a broadcast talent. Because I don't even really think about casting as just the casting. That's just what shows up on camera. It's everything else around you that makes you valuable and like makes you someone that gets actually hired, makes you hireable.
Yeah, which is what, like I said, the self-reinforcing thing and the reliability thing. That's like part of that as well. There's so many different factors that go into it.
I also don't think, I don't think you can be the best version of you as a caster unless you're doing it in an arena or you're doing it in a studio.
Mm.
I mean, I look at myself and I say, what is my best cast ever? It was probably IEM Sydney, that Renegades game with Brainstorm, who doesn't even cast anymore, right? And I should, in the last 3 years, have been able to cast a better game because I should be a better caster. But
What about Wings Are Pain? Come on,
that was
bro.
very close. That was very close. That was a good one too.
Yeah.
But that was, the thing is, like, I may never ever even get a better opportunity than what I did for that game. Like, when am I going to get casting to an Australian crowd with an Australian team performing well, someone dropping 50 kills? Like, these all come together, and it's like, okay, I'm never going to really be able to replicate that for myself unless I have another game of that caliber. Because I don't think, for me personally, and I believe this is the case for all casters, I don't think you are the best caster unless the game delivers as well. You can only cast to the level of which the game is going to give you. And if you're doing a remote broadcast, you're doing an online broadcast, you can do a good cast, but it's never going to be the same as when you're doing it in an arena. So for these guys that are doing remote broadcasts and whatever, and trying to sort of come up through the ranks, and, you're trying to go for a job, and then there's some guy that can put on his show reel that they've been in an arena and they've got the screaming fans behind them and blah, blah, blah. It's like, how can you even hope to compete? It's just, it's apples and oranges.
This industry, like a lot of industries, is kind of like the actual, like, just real life, to be honest with you, is a bit of a rich get richer situations. Like, the guy that has the studio work is going to get more studio work, and then he's got to get the arena work, and then he's going to keep getting the arena work. And if you're not going to get, if you don't get any of that, you're just not going to get any of that. And the guy that starts getting that keeps getting that. So yeah, the rich do get richer, but like, that's, to me, that's just life in general.
This is something that I think gatekeeps Australian casters from getting international work. Not only because we're geographically challenged and we cost a lot more to get overseas. And when I started casting, when I went and joined ESL in 2016, I had a naive future ahead of me where I thought what would happen would be I would cast in Australia for a year or two. Someone would say, hey, do you want to come over to Germany, join the Germany talent team? And from there, I'd start getting on all the big shows. Now, obviously, that didn't happen. But I think at that time, I was a better caster than some of the casters at the top now were back then. Like, they didn't even exist. They weren't even casting at the time. But I was casting in Australia. I was doing some pretty decent shows. I was doing some international stuff here and there. Like, I did some World of Tanks global shows and stuff like that, get my experience and whatever. But now I look at it and I think, okay, I am miles behind these guys because where are the opportunities in Australia to grow for someone like me and for someone like Mac and for Pilski and for, for Jake and even Avril, right? You guys, I think we're all at the top of where we can be. Like, I almost feel like my skill and my ability as a caster is almost gatekept by the opportunities I get. The only time I feel like I can cast better or get better with my work is when I'm doing things like DreamHack. That's the only kind of broadcast that actually challenges me because I've done so many studio shows. I've done so many remote online broadcasts.
Like thousands of hours.
Thousands. I've done the reps.
Hours.
I'm not getting better from these kinds of things. The things I need to learn are how to project my voice in an arena, when to use dead air because the crowd's loud. How to do that kind of broadcast rather than the online studio shows. So I think even now, right, for people in ANZ, we're falling behind the people overseas. I think if you want to be at the best, if you want to be the top of the top, if you want to go to Worlds, right, if you're Hysterics, or if you want to go and cast the Overwatch League like Avril is, or if I want to cast a major, how am I going to cast a major? I've been casting Counter-Strike for 7 or 8 years now almost. I don't even know when I started. 2015 it might have been. How do I now get to a major? I can do DreamHack here and there, but I'm never, ever getting the call up to go and do an overseas DreamHack because I'm just more expensive. And maybe I'm not even as good as the people overseas. And every time they get to do that event overseas that they get better. And I don't. So I get 1 or 2, maybe, arena shows in Australia a year. And that's it.
And they cement themselves in as well. That's another thing where they do that show. And if they do well, like, we got to have that person back. And that spot that you might have been competing for could be long gone. Could be gone for, years as well. That's the other thing.
So unless someone, for some reason, just takes a chance on you and just says, we're going to stick with this guy for a year. We're going to put him on every single show. Where do you go? Like, where as an ANZ caster do you go to get a job
because
overseas?
there's no growth here. Like, this is the other thing as well, is like, at least if our scene was you know, building up at an alarming rate, or at least continuing to grow every single year and feel like the development is so meaningful, at least you'd be like, well, in my domestic region, I still have a lot of crap where I can, you know, it might lead to a stadium. It might lead to like a big show that then can sit on my show reel and go into international applications.
By the
where
way,
it might be better.
I feel like we kind of had that momentum pre-COVID. COVID
did.
did shit on that pretty
We
hard.
did.
But
Yeah, we
even
have.
even now, like you talk about, like, oh, you know, let's say we're starting to get some momentum. DreamHack's coming, blah blah blah. Maybe I'll do some, you know, arena stuff now. You are, fun fact for all the up and coming talent that think, you know, you'll get to the DreamHack and make it. When you get to that level, you guess what? You're still competing against the entire world. Oh, you get a DreamHack? Yeah, well, they're considering talent from overseas, and they might get
yeah.
instead of you. They might literally use overseas talent instead of Australian casters for DreamHack Australia. That
They
could
did.
just be a reality.
They
They
did.
did.
They did do that.
They did it for them. Well, they've done it recently.
because
They've done it recently.
on CS.
And that's what I'm saying. It's like you're gatekept at that level as well. And I don't know if this is the right time to bring it up, but like, you know, I joke about OS being like OS jail. You know, I joke about Jake and I, we get a little bit more yard time because we do some international work. We're still physically here. We're doing all right. But like the point is like there is some major boundaries for this region specifically. If you're doing esports here, playing or casting, but since we're cast, we'll just talk about the cast part. You are doing esports on hard mode. You've entered the game and you've selected the difficulty. You're like, I might just start on nightmare difficulty as like a brand new guy. That's what you've done. That's what everyone here has done.
And you can't justify it because the time you need to put in now as someone who's growing. And I understand that part where you're a beginner caster or intermediate caster. The time you put in, it's like you can't justify it because you have to work normal job because you have to earn for an increased cost of living. Where over here, there are gigs I turned down and will be turning down for next year. There's actually one that'll remain nameless where it's moving to Auckland, right? They've told us about, a couple of days ago that they'll be moving to Auckland. I'm like, okay.
I'm in the wrong city. Yeah.
But, well, yeah, apparently. But then I look at it and I'm like, well, okay, not only did you tell me late, but I know that the cost of this, the price is going to be piddly. Like it's going to be so crap as a day rate where I'd earn twice as much doing a completely different game with ESL if I really needed the money. So it's not actually worth, doing gigs sometimes in Australia or OC, I should say, because it's like, well, it's not worth my time because then I also set a precedence that I'm okay accepting a crap day rate that's not actually worth my value as a brand or as a caster and the quality that I provide. So it's like, it's shit like that just gets you down.
And then just on that, you'll have the young up and comers like myself who will literally sit there, see that you've turned it down and be like, I'll pay myself to get to Auckland. Like I'll sit there, I'll eat 2-minute noodles every single night. I'll buy a 5-pack from Woolies and just sit there, live
Which
on
is
that.
good.
while
It's
I'm
what
in
you have to
Auckland
do,
cast.
but it's also just crap money. But
I mean, I don't really agree though. Like I understand why you would do it and I understand that people feel like they need to do that, but end of the day, I think that's just shooting yourself in the foot,
Yep.
Because
it is.
I wouldn't do that.
you can
for
do that
casting.
for a couple of months maybe, but inevitably, at what point do you run out of money?
If you were to roll the dice,
Yeah.
like what is your percentage chance of like then leveraging that to get something, and then let's pretend everyone's dream is to be a top tier 1 cast or whatever. Like, what's the chance that you do that and that actually works? I think pretty damn low.
But
I
then
think
it's
when
in
you-
balance. It's in balance, right?
Yeah.
Because in 2016 and 2017, I did not go full-time casting. I was doing some gigs. I was doing OCS, and I was doing like 1 or 2 ESL. I'm not even sure I was doing ESL. And I was just doing that, but I was working a full-time gig at the restaurant. And I could only work in development short-term. But it was in 2018 when I built up those contacts. And when I did, I was like, okay, I'm leaving the restaurant. I've worked enough broadcasts where I know that I can get this gig, and this gig, and actually pay the bills because I've developed in my spare time. Like that's kind of what you have to do. You have to go step by step. You don't just all in. You don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Which was easier, I think, even 6 years ago. Whereas like now, like if I had to redo all of this day one again, starting in 2023, I probably wouldn't. I'd just say,
Sure,
fuck,
you're
I'm not going to
fucked.
be a caster. I'm not going to be a caster.
It needs
Too hard.
to be
difficult.
sustainable. Like, I had to do hospo as well as doing casting at the start because it just pays less when you're new and there's less opportunities. You're like, sometimes casting is like on a fine balance. Like you lose one show, that might be like the year that you make like fucking 20 grand less or something,
Yeah.
Like, it's always
there's
just
a lot of
hanging in the
luck.
balance.
There's a shitload of luck involved because like you need to, let's say what Jake just said, a broadcaster went to Auckland. You happen to be a guy from Auckland. something happened completely out of your control. A broadcast just landed on your doorstep in Auckland. Boom. Now you have access to something you didn't have access to before. Just total random luck. You had no impact on that. It just happened. I can tell you, I think everyone that's made it any reasonable amount in esports, this is certainly true for like the like super top dogs out there. When I've talked to them, there's always a story of, you know, specific Deus Ex Machina moments where like if this one very specific thing did not happen, something completely out of my control did not happen, I wouldn't be here where I am. And I could definitely name about 3 of those moments off the top of my head.
I can name no shortage.
Moments.
My career is based on that. I literally, a friend saw a forum post in 2014 from Riot Games, from Pastry Time, who was in the OPL at the time. He saw that post and said, oh, they're looking for casters. I never, ever checked the forum of League of Legends. I wouldn't have looked for that. I wasn't looking at all. Like, I did a practice cast just out of like a joke because I wanted to grow a YouTube channel.
100% luck, like winning the lottery kind of luck.
I wouldn't have done it. I wanted to go in acting and television. Like, that's it. I wouldn't be here at all.
Well, I mean, I think for Mac, Billy and I, we have had no shortage of those. It's basically a scenario where, if we want to do an international CS broadcast, if we want to do like, say, a B stream for an IEM or something like that, that B stream has to be won by ESL Australia. ESL Australia has to produce it. They've done like ESEA stuff or, you know, anything, whatever. It doesn't really matter what it is. If that broadcast goes somewhere else, which, by the way, now a lot of those are going elsewhere because they've set up a studio in Sweden where they do all of those shows from, we just lose all that work. We have lost so much work just because these broadcasts are not being produced in Australia anymore. And it's not our fault. It's not anyone's fault, really. It's cheaper for them to do it in Sweden. They can, you know, do it in-house, basically. They don't have to pay ESL Australia to do it, whatever. And therefore, we're out of a job. We didn't do anything wrong. We didn't cast poorly. I mean, maybe we did, but I don't think we did. I thought we did okay, you know. But where's that work go? I mean, it's just gone.
My point is like you can do everything right. This is why I said earlier, like in the very short introduction I had, which is like you need to have absolute accountability. That's step number 1. But then you also have to sort of like simmer down and realize there's going to be a lot of shit that comes completely out of your control. Sometimes 100% luck either in your favor or totally against you that you cannot control. And you have to live with that and just be like, it is what it is. Whether the broadcasts come and leave, budgets being cut or added, like you just happen to be a guy in Auckland and a broadcast shows up in your lap. These things can and just happen. And also, you're not just competing against all these other thousands of casters, depending on what level of work you're going for, but you're also going up against, I say against, you're going, you are trying to be hired sometimes by like one dude, one very specific in the shadows, don't even know their name, talent manager, have no idea who they are, hooded figure, Illuminati guy, no idea who they are. You're trying to impress that person who don't even know. They dictate whether you have a career or not.
He's got 300 followers on Twitter and a picture of his dog or something.
They might not even have profile picture. Some random name, no profile picture, 300 followers. That is the CEO of not. I'm not talking about our Ivory Tower, like the Ivory Tower, the actual one that's way bigger than the one that people think exists here. You got to impress that guy. You don't even know who that person is. You don't even know what they like, what they want. You don't know what they're looking for. They could be looking for anything. You could have done the best job. There have been plenty of moments in my career I was like, I think I'm much better than X or Y person that got hired, but I don't know what that person was looking for. That whoever was in charge of hiring was just looking for something different. And having now been at certain levels where I work with talent managers and have unhooded some of these figures, I make them sound scarier than that, but they're just people who have jobs. What you realize is a lot of the times, this is not like some sort of mark against them. It is just what it is. They're not even really esports people sometimes. They're people that just got put in that position like, oh, I used to work in this area. I used to just be a production guy. I used to just like fucking do the vision mixing and whatnot. And now I'm the talent manager. He just randomly got put in there. He doesn't know anything about talent. What does this guy know about talent? Nothing. But now they are in charge. This one dude now is in charge of your entire potential career. He will make or break whether you have a career or not, just like that. And they might not even know. They might not even know what they're doing. And I'm not. That's not a mark against. I'm not trying to shit on them. That's just a reality. I'm just saying, when you accept that reality, you have a better life.
They just look at people and they're like, this person has a bit more Twitter followers, or maybe it'd be good for like bit of diversity. Bit of diversity might be nice, or this person charges 200 less. That's like that's like $2,000 off the budget. That's pretty good. Like my boss is going to be happy with me.
Sometimes they're just in a spreadsheet. Sometimes they are just. I just want to impress my boss so I can get promoted and get out of this talent position. That is literally sometimes what it is. And so like undercutting exists because that guy just wants to make his spreadsheet look better, and boom, he picks somebody else instead of you. That's literally what it can be.
Okay. I want to start wrapping this up, so I want to do a bit of a closing segment here, right? With all what we've discussed in mind, I want to ask each of you, does the Ivory Tower exist again? So, Hysterics, does the Ivory Tower exist?
Yeah, it does. Of course it does, because we're like, there's no extra work in OC. There's so limited, as we've all talked about. There are so many jobs going around. Like Valorant doesn't exist in OC unless you're in New Zealand. So that's one broadcast. ESL did another broadcast end of last year, but that's it. League of Legends in OC, you want to be in that? There's one broadcast for that. There's LCO. You want to be in anything else? There's some SOC who do some stuff, but I don't know if they pay. And if they do, it's got to be piddly. And it's not worth it, and it's online, and it's not great plays. And it's like, well, Challenger Series, as far as I know, doesn't exist. There's not even an open ladder kind of thing, unless you count the Sumsock thing. Okay, that's League done. What else you got? Rocket League has one broadcast, as far as I know, unless there's some other stuff going on. As you guys talked about, AUNZ champs with CSGO. You might get ESL Pro League as well. So, like, there's a couple, but they're quality broadcasts, so they're going to use the best broadcast. Of course it exists, because at the end of the day, like, they need good casters to cast the best of a region, and there are no other broadcasts to bring up and coming casters. So there's this massive gap, and so the people have to take out their own time and money to try and bridge that gap and get into the tower. It makes sense. It's a negative thing, because the region doesn't have enough money, doesn't have enough viewers to support itself, and that's why there's an easy Ivory Tower to say.
Avril, do you think the Ivory
Even
Tower
if
exists?
to add on, even short answer yes. To add on though, even if there was more money and more broadcasts, guess what? They'd be filled up as well. There'd be more casters too, by the way.
Sure.
And then there'd still be, oh, you've gone from 10 people complain about Ivory Tower to now like 50. Because now there's more people.
There's an Ivory Tower globally. Like, that's what, people could complain about World's talent for League of Legends or MSI talent. Oh, the
100%.
same people get selected. It's like
100%.
Also because they're fucking good at their job. That's another reason there's an Ivory Tower that exists everywhere, because they're really good at their job. You might complain there's not enough work. It's like, yeah, that's also everywhere. It's just a scale. Not economies of scale. What's the word I'm looking for? But it's like the scale. No, thanks, Billy.
It's a pyramid scheme.
It's
Pilski with his business degree. All right, weird flex. Whatever, man.
But it's a scale. It's a scale. It could be 100 people up, but you're not getting the position because you're 101, right? There's always going to be an Ivory Tower, because the best of the best get chosen. In Hollywood too. In acting too. It's the same thing. Why are you not up there with Hugh Jackman? He's in the Ivory Tower.
Okay, Flam, does the Ivory Tower exist? And what
I didn't
can
even
we
get
do
to
about it?
answer because
I don't
Jake cut
care.
me off.
We'll go straight to Flam. Avril, you can have some.
Jake answered my question. All right.
You missed your opportunity.
Well, I've
Jake cut me off.
Can I talk? Jesus
Yeah,
fuck.
can he talk? I'm stop cutting him off,
He's not
man.
Sort
in
him
the
out,
tower, he can't.
Not allowed to talk anymore. God damn it. No,
That's the Ivory Tower.
I think especially the Ivory Tower, I think it does exist globally. However, I feel like it's up to the individual casters to try and make their own opportunities, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
Like, I've spoken to many people, names that come to mind, Dweg, Grimy Rana, Dados. These guys, they literally go out of their way, make their own opportunities. Grimy Rana went out and become a journalist for one of the top UK CSGO sort of news sites coming through. And the fact that they're able to sort of make their own path and forge their own kind of way, not having to like sort of quote unquote disregard the Ivory Tower and just continue to just work and be in the space. Like, it's kind of what we have to do. I'll be completely honest.
Give Kev a short spiel.
Avril, go.
He looks sad.
So that's just my resting sad face.
I'm sorry I yelled at you.
Sorry, I decide if you get it or not, so you have to be nice to me. Yeah, like it exists, and it's because of Elfish Guy. At Elfish Guy, DM him, and us.
Okay,
No, but
I'm glad we let you say that.
It's not even a nefarious thing. It's just how jobs are. It's like, it's a economic. If you understand economy, you understand the fact that it's a supply demand thing. If there's a lot of supply and not enough demand because there's only X or Y broadcasts, 1 or 2 broadcasts, then a shitload of people are going to miss out. That's just the mathematics of that. You can't help that. And the answer is like, well, you make more broadcasts. You can't either, because how many people are going to watch? How many games are there? How many teams are playing? Like, it's scaled to whatever it needs to be, and there can only be 5 people in that broadcast, and that's it. And if you're not one of those 5 people, unlucky. I'm sorry.
Mac, what's your take?
All right. So for my answer, yes, it exists. I'll give you a quick TLDR guide of how to join the Ivory Tower. There's like barely any places to rent at the moment in Sydney, but you've got to move here. You've got to move here. And to do that, you've got to do something like Conky, where you just work a normal day job, make some money, you know, save up some money. This is what I did, but it was, you know, I was laboring, I was doing some video stuff on the side. I was already freelance. I had fuck all money, but I still moved to Sydney because I had a job at the time and could support it, even though the rent was pretty expensive. You know, you just do all these things before you get to do the job, right? So you do that, you get a job, then you move to Sydney with enough to sustain
Go
yourself.
to the pub.
Don't even go. You can go to the pub, but don't
need to
think
hear
about
this.
buying houses just yet. Let me do the guide, please. No interjections. You're in Sydney. You still work. You've got a little bit of money to sustain yourself, and you've won the lottery of getting a house in Sydney. Then you need to find a job in Sydney, and they exist. Look at labouring. Look at warehouse jobs. They're going all the time. They'll pay your bills, and then you're here, and you're close enough, and then you have to play the waiting game for long enough until one of us get picked up to go overseas, until one of us go, fuck this, I've had enough. I'm going to go do a normal day job and move out of Sydney. And that's pretty much it. And just work on your craft at the same time. Jake, questions in a second. And then work on your craft while that's happening. Hopefully, you know, ESCA allows you just to, you know, do main, open, all that again without it being a whole application process. It's ANZ, whatever now. That's for CS at least. For Valorant, you know, there's many little things you can do to work on your your work, your
Craft.
words.
Yep.
I don't know. Talking is my job, and I suck at it. Essentially, on your craft. And every game has something that you can cast over. You can go, if you want to do good games, which are going to be better than the games you'll start casting, go look at, you know, the major for CS. Go look at champs for Valorant. Just get those VODs. I'm pretty sure there is VODs without casting on it as well. And you can do your casting over the top and then send it to someone or listen to it back. Say, what can I do better? Send it to someone and say, what can I do better? And they'll give you usually some kind of feedback if they watch it. Anyway, that's the guide. That's the guide. Congratulations. Now you can attempt to get in the Ivory Tower.
So I will also say the third part of that, Mac, outside of the other two you indicated, is the third part is broadcasts do expand. Money does come in internationally sometimes. Like, it's rare, but broadcasts will get bigger. They'll get sponsors, and then they want to extend their show days, or they extend, you know, the broadcast itself. There will be room for new talent. Like, there will be room for new talent on your broadcast. So I feel like without people leaving or going overseas, there are rare chances where the broadcast just becomes bigger and there's more money invested into it, either by an international company or a domestic company, which is even rarer. So, you know, being in the right time in the right place, again, just cannot be said enough, just to add 2 cents.
Pilski, you can close us out.
I'm gonna say that
A banger
it
finish.
isn't like a thing, like an intentional thing. It's just a combination of circumstances and social interactions and a lot of other things that we mentioned. And I'd agree that I don't think it's sustainable to go all in on casting. And if you were going to do it, you shouldn't do it in Australia. You should try and go
Unlike you,
overseas
Julie, Australians.
and make it happen, because you know, if you're going to go all in on something, you may as well go like to the highest level of it, right? And Oz is not the highest level of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the other thing that I would say, because it's the thing that's worked for me, and I was terrible at so many different things when I started, and it didn't matter, is that it does work to differentiate yourself. That's what worked for me. I wasn't a good play-by-play caster. I wasn't entertaining. I had terrible posture, but I could do a few things that other people couldn't do, and that's the only reason why I kept my job.
All right, well, my 2 cents is that, yes, the Ivory Tower exists, but not in the way that people think it does. I think the Ivory Tower exists because of all the things we talked about, right? There's that upward pressure where
And more.
once you get to the bottleneck, once you get to the top, which is where a lot of people are now in ANZ, there is nowhere further to go, and that's a trickle-down effect, because that means there's nowhere for the people below you to go because you're not moving on. So I think for me, that's probably the biggest issue. That's why people think there's an Ivory Tower. It's because there are no opportunities at the bottom level, because there's no more opportunities at the top level. And also the fact that there's no grassroots, right? We've heard this discussion a lot as well around the place. I know the Chiefs guys in particular really love having that grassroots discussion around players and teams and orgs and leagues and whatever. But I think the same thing applies to talent. There's no... in a lot of cases, in a lot of shows, in a lot of broadcasts, there's no way to go from zero to being on that broadcast. There is no, like Overwatch Contenders, right? How do you get on Overwatch Contenders right now? There is no step below Overwatch contenders where you can
No.
hone your skills as an Overwatch caster. There's no tier 2
Dota
PUBG.
caster.
In fact, there is no PUBG in ANZ. You have to be casting Asia Pacific PUBG basically. I mean, there is PUBG in LPL, I guess. So there is some in New Zealand, but I mean, League of Legends, how do you get on the LCO? Right? There's no tier 2 League of Legends. There's none of that. I mean, there is a little bit of a benefit in some cases with CS where there is a bit more of a pathway there, but yeah, I think that's the biggest issue. So I don't have the solutions. I don't think anyone on this show has solutions, and I don't think anyone really does know what we should be doing about it, but hopefully you enjoyed watching it. And
we'll work it out next time.
Yeah. Before we go, does everyone feel like they've said their piece? Is there anything else anyone wants to say on this topic?
I would say if you want to be like a caster or you just love the scene or you love the events, you should be trying to get involved with the TOs.
Reach
There's
out.
so
to
many. There's
casters.
so many more. There's so many more like positions and job opportunities that aren't casting and just being there. Like even Mandy, who came and sat down,
Mandy was
like,
an observer.
was an observer for
Mm.
R6, and then I didn't even know that she'd become a caster until I saw her like
Caster
announcement or whatever for the going to the major. I don't know much about Rainbow Six, obviously, like the major or whatever it is going overseas. And she was like, I remember sitting doing like a BR event observing, and she was on the observer team, and we were observing the same thing. And it's like, if you're just in the general space, that helps as well, I think.
I've got one. Even if you don't like the FGC, I'm pretty sure Smash and the FGC, they have, look, most of it has to be in-person events, right? And almost every single university, I think, in Australia has some kind of FGC club. That's where I sort of really kicked off my esports love, was just going and playing Smash. I was not good at Melee. I was getting my ass kicked at Melee. Like Smash 4 had just come out at that point, I think. Playing a little bit of that. But most of them do their 1 to 5 people broadcasts that aren't being watched on Twitch, but they are doing broadcasts. And they just get whoever wants to sit there with the microphone to cast. And even if you don't like Smash, it's not a super hard game. It's just like fighting, right? You just learn things as you cast. Go enjoy the environment because there's an atmosphere. And that's something that with COVID, we missed a lot with casting, was that atmosphere in the background, which is what you get at live events. And live events, it's always happened at FGC. So get into the FGC if you want to start. It's a great way to make friends and just like learn about esports, and then also just have some fun. And that's where you'd get into it if you aren't already a tier 3 or tier 2 caster that's been doing it for a while.
All right.
I'm the tough love bad guy on this podcast, and I just want people to be realistic about their expectations and realistic about what the industry is and how it all works and stuff like that, at least to whatever degree is healthy, because I think a lot of people do come into this industry for the wrong reasons. Like they think it's Hollywood. It's like, I just want to be, like Jake says, I just want to be Hugh Jackman or be next to them, whatever. It's like, if you're not here because you actually like the games, like first, if you're coming into esports and you want to be casters, like what game should I cast with the best chance to be a caster? You're already here for the wrong reasons. That's already the wrong question to be asking. And it's like, because there's so much competition, I've already said so many things that are complete luck that will get in your way, that will help you, that will hinder you, that is out of your control. You will mentally not get past any of that unless you are here for the right reasons and you actually do enjoy games, you actually do enjoy esports. And you also, by the way, need to be resigned to the fact that, hey, there's a very, very high likelihood that it's not going to work out and I'm never going to be a tier 1 caster. Am I okay with that? Am I okay casting because I enjoy casting? And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'll keep doing it because it's fun and I enjoy it. And that's the real reason I'm doing it. Because if you're here like, oh, I need a cast to live, you shouldn't be a caster.
That's
And
right.
you got to like the sound of your own voice. If you don't, then I think you're in the wrong.
I do not.
Ideally, other people like the sound of your voice better than you like it.
That's true. That's true.
Turn back. What's it called? The thing that plays your voice back in your ears. I just turn that off. Easy done.
Side tone. Yeah.
Side
Is that
turn.
it?
Turn
Is that
side
it?
turn off.
Everyone's happy.
The last thing is, if you
100%
want tips, DM at Elfish Guy. He'll give you all the tips.
DM any of us. Just DM casters. Just talk to casters with,
Especially
all the
Elfish Guy.
Hollywood references I've used. Like, it's about the
DM
people
Hugh
you know
Jackman.
sometimes.
I have had
not the things you know.
more DMs about fitness than
And
I
that's
don't think
fucking
I've ever
sad.
been asked about casting. I don't think I've ever. No one's
Maybe
ever
people
reached
don't
out
think
and-
you've got anything to.
Oh,
Yeah, you got
God.
nothing. Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
What are they fucking know, huh?
All right. Go
Obviously they
punch
know.
off somewhere else.
All right, let's wrap it up. Thank you very much, guys, for coming. It's been a pleasure talking to you
Thanks
all.
for having me.
Thank you guys for watching as well, of course. If you're watching, let us know how much you hate the Ivory Tower in the comments. Like, subscribe, do all those things.
I bet they won't watch this. I bet the people that complain about this the most won't even fucking watch this.
Nah, they will. They will. They just won't say anything. Anyway,
Oh,
we'll see you next
at
time.
me.
Or Stu in the background.
Wasting time.